it with me. Don't you hate when that happens?
I do hate it. Mine was so clever that I think a future me time traveled to take it for later for when I didn't do my homework, which is why it was missing.
Damn.
So it's going around today. But yeah, the last couple weeks been big for me. You know, it's holiday season. Got to do holiday things and do all of the work so that your time off doesn't leave you super behind and crap. But it's been a good couple weeks for me. A lot of really crazy stuff. I'm not going to talk too much about this because I don't remember tons of it. But I watched Hot Frosty, which is basically just Frosty the Snowman story, where person brings a snowman to life, except in this case it's like a middle-aged woman in like a small town whose husband died and she's not dealing with it well. You know, everyone's like, oh, you know, she's doing bad, you know, whatever. Anyway, a guy becomes a hot dude, and that happens. So it's kind of like a weird rom-com with lots of little innuendos and stuff sprinkled throughout. It's very silly.
If it's Netflix, Frosty the Snowman, is it animated or is it like a filmed?
It is filmed live action.
Damn.
But it is Frosty because she does the thing where like she goes, there's like in the middle of the street or like some little winter setup they have. She puts the scarf and the hat on him or whatever. I don't know if it was the hat or she puts a scarf on him. She does the thing and then magic happens. She doesn't see it though. She leaves. And then overnight magic happens and he's a dude. And of course he has to like convince her that he's really a snowman and he's a normal dude, but he's cold to the touch and stuff. And he's like, so it's clear something magic is happening. He's not like just a crazy dude who's like saying he's Frosty. He is very literally in universe, a magic snowman person who's come to life. There's even a doctor. She takes her to a doctor and the doctor's like, he is cold. Have you thought maybe he is a magic guy, snowman turned to life? It's like immediately the second thing she goes to, which is just how I imagine small town doctors. The second they can't explain nothing, they're just like, magic. Makes sense to me.
Does Frosty say his iconic catchphrase, happy birthday?
You know, I can't remember anything he did except for, he doesn't wear a shirt for a good bit of time. And he helps the townsfolk in really charming ways. His big thing is he feels like a burden. So he's always trying to help everyone around. He's very nice and sweet.
Nice.
Yeah, like I said, I was like half in and out on this movie. It got me on the name alone. I was like, how are you gonna not watch that? Netflix is like the new Hallmark for Christmas movies. You know, it's they pump them out, but I like it better because but they range, you know, from like being little kid movies, you know, about marrying a prince, or
right.
you have a doppelganger in another country who looks like you, so you're like twins, but I don't think you're actually related, and you swap places. I love that one because in the third movie, they introduce that there's a third twin. Well, not even a twin at this point. It's a triplet. There's a third person that looks like them who's evil. She's more of like kind of a bitch than evil, but, you know, evil, like a criminal, I think, even. And she's in the mix. So it becomes even more like, whoa, who's who? Yeah, big stuff there. Big stuff. Yeah, comic wise, Ultimate Spider-Man 12 came out this last week and it was a Christmas issue.
Yeah, that was surprising, but I should have seen it coming. They are very consistent with the whole like, oh, a single issue is technically like a month, give or take.
Yeah.
So they're sticking to the gimmick, I guess.
Yeah. And this very much felt like a take a beat issue, and I kind of felt like it was going to be that when I saw the cover.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is going to be a chillaxing issue. And I feel like the last Ultimates issue is like that too. Not the one shot, but the actual Ultimates issue. But
yeah, I finally got around to reading that one, and I'm like, wait, they're just standing around talking.
Yeah, it was very much a shit went down last issue. Let's react to that for a second.
Yeah.
Which
isn't bad. I just, in the back of my head, I always get slightly annoyed by that sort of thing. Like, I feel like comics should be longer when stuff like that is happening.
Yeah, I kind of, with the format of monthly comics, I do kind of expect them to not kind of waste the whole, not waste, but like use the space of a whole issue like that. Because they didn't really do anything or set anything up. It makes me wonder if when they collect the trades, if they're going to pop that one in at the beginning of a TVB, like, and maybe
that would make sense. Like, I think I've already seen people like compiling collections, and they stop like right before that issue.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the trade would actually reflect that, but that would make sense.
I
could
like see
the beginning of a quote unquote like arc.
Yeah, I could see the trade being the first 5 and then maybe that one shot to round it out as 6 issues, but have them all like really tied together, because that one shot almost serves as like an epilogue to the first arc, but it's pretty self-contained.
What I haven't read yet. Everyone says it's good, but I'm like, I don't know.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'll after we do the Ultimate Spider-Man, I'll tell you what happens in it. And it might pique your interest enough to go back and read it. And if not, you'll at least know what happened. But the big thing for this Spider-Man issue was that reveal at the end, which is exciting. Peter and Harry have been totally kidnapped.
Right.
By the Hunter, which I don't know. I don't remember if we saw them get kidnapped. I don't remember that happening the last issue. But they've been kidnapped, and his, like, what's totally going to turn into Venom at some point is, has been, like, living as Peter for him while they're gone. And no one has known. And,
oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So that's going to be, and that was kind of revealed like in the last like 3 pages. Most of the issue was just kind of slice of life characters. Or, Mary Jane has a little bit of drama with her sister, I guess, who is a bitch. And they make up, which is how you know it's fictional. But yeah, the epilogue, shows they've been gone for a week. No one's known. Harry, Peter, they're tied up. They're not in their super suits. They're all chained up. We've got a young boy, Kraven the Hunter here. And, I don't know. It's going to be some shit, I feel like. That's going to be a really interesting the next little arc here that they've set up. And speaking of Kraven, I've not seen the new Kraven movie yet, but I hear it's just terrible. Just awful, possibly worse than Madam Web.
I expected nothing less. Like, usually I feel it's unfair to base a movie on how the trailers look, because marketers just constantly fuck up and don't like properly deliver on, selling you the movie. Usually they're just selling you something, anything to get you to like see the movie. Mm-hmm. But the editing in those trailers, I thought that just must be the movie. They didn't know what to do, so they just gave us the movie and all of its quick cut ricketiness.
Yeah, it is kind of amazing. Supposedly, the Sonyverse is dying now, is dead now. They're throwing in the towel on it.
Which is crazy, considering they even got that far, because wasn't there news recently that there was nothing stopping Sony from using Spider-Man in anything? Just some uppity weirdo saw the MCU agreement and said, well, fuck, we can't use Spider-Man. That might confuse people.
Yeah, it's really confusing what's going on with that too, because I've seen conflicting reporting on it. So either they were allowed to use it and they chose not to, or it was nebula. I don't know. It seems like it seems like no matter how you interpret it, though, they've just totally mishandled this, and it came out bad, and nothing about it has worked, and they're finally just acknowledging defeat. I guess they held on longer than I think people really expected them to.
Oh yeah, after Morbius, I totally expected them to just stop doing any of those.
Exactly.
We at least got 3 Venom movies out of it, but wow.
Yeah, the Venom movies have to have like subsidized everything about these other movies.
Yeah.
Because those have like managed to just make money. Even
China loves Venom. It's crazy.
Yeah, they love Venom. China, I guess apparently their movie market, they don't really care about anything but action sequences, is what I hear. And that would track if I guess if you went into Venom and you didn't really want to care about anything except seeing Venom stuff happen, then you might then you probably love Venom 1 and 2. I don't know how you feel about Venom 3. That one I think feels weird for everyone. Even if you like the Venom movies, it's gonna feel weird. It's a very disjointed movie. I
think it might be a bit of an oversimplification to say that Chinese moviegoers only care about set pieces. And that's just because I've been watching a lot of Chinese movies recently just out of like abject boredom. And a lot of like the big Hollywood, we're trying to make it like an Eli Roth movie garbage is there. But a lot of it is still like the normal movie stuff. Like they don't forget to put a plot in it.
I wonder if they just don't. It's just from our movies that they don't give a shit about it.
That would make sense. Like
when
maybe
they see
think
a Hollywood movie, they don't give a fuck. They're just like, give us a sequence.
Like maybe they hear Hollywood and they think, oh, like that Steven Spielberg compilation I watched on Billy the other day. And then it is just like a Steven Spielberg compilation film, and they go, wow, American cinema.
I could see that. That would make sense. It's the kind of like, I don't want to say culturally insensitive because it's not quite that. And also it implies like a victimization, but like a lack of, they don't really give a fuck about what we're writing about or storying about. They're just whatever. We'll make our own stories. Just show us your effects work. We don't really need you to give us life lessons.
The country that pioneered wushu films has probably a lot to teach American filmmakers, or at least Sony. They could teach Sony a thing or two, like how to make a good movie on a shoestring budget.
Yeah.
Like how do they fuck that up? They had a whole. Wasn't there a Spider-Man in Madam Web? But like, not really.
Maybe they showed like a glimpse. Oh, there was like a villain. Have you not seen Madam Web? It's
no.
It's wild. Okay. It's I would recommend like obtaining it. I wouldn't pay a lot for it though, but I would say it's worth a watch to laugh at if you get a group of people together. But yeah, there's a villain who's based off a comic character who has spider powers. In the comics, it's like his name's Elijah, I think. He doesn't have a suit in the comics, but in the movies, they basically give him like a bad Spider-Man suit, and it's really bad. And the girls that were marketed as being Spider Women only show up like that literally in the scenes they showed in the trailer. Those scenes are the only ones where that happens in the movie. And none of them are like taking place in the moment. They're glimpses of the future. So they literally just don't do that at all. They never like have spider powers or fight with spider powers or get shown being spidery. The whole it's just bad. It's just really bad. And there's so many scenes that are ADR'd to hell. They didn't even try to like disguise it. You can tell it went through rewrites. And Dakota Johnson just doesn't give a fuck in the movie at all. And the plot kind of doesn't make sense at all. There's a part where like during the middle of the movie, she's like, "Oh, gotta fly down to South America just cause," and she does, and then comes back, and like all of this happens without issue, and like, it's really weird. It is a bizarre film.
Knowing nothing, I would assume it's a comedy, but I know that would be unfairly putting too much on the movie.
It is unintentionally funny at times. But yeah. So Spider-Man, that was Ultimate Spider-Man. To speak to the Ultimate Universe 1 year in, one shot. This is basically the premise of the story. It's kind of fun. It is about Nick Fury from S.H.I.E.L.D., or in their universe, they call it something else. I forget what. Basically, they're like the secret police for the Maker or whatever. And it is like a little journal of him, and he's like, basically like, okay, I'm done with this. This is horrible. I can't work for him anymore. I've got a plan. I'm gonna kill the people and take them out, the people at the top, and then kind of hope, that kind of deal. And then at the whole issue is setting up. They're having a big meeting. It's going through the motions. The reveal at the end is they saw the heel turn coming because this is not the first time he's done it. He's a clone. They kill him in like 2 seconds, and while they mock him because he's been writing all of this in like some journal in his brain or something, and they've read it all before. And it turns out they've just got God Emperor of Dune, Idaho style, just a big room of Nick Fury clones that they pull out and use until they get suspicious and turn on them, and then they kill him and bring out another.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Just as like a premise, like, oh, we don't want to use any other guy because Nick Fury, according to the Maker, is just like the guy, but also because he's the guy, we have to keep him in stock because he might have to be killed.
Yeah. He's like, at the beginning
it's just fun
in the
to
universe. Yeah, at the beginning of the universe, he talks about how some people just happen, like when they're setting it up. I got rid of some heroes, never gave them their powers, and other ones just always happened, so I worked them into my plans. So I guess, just keep Nick Fury around, and he'll turn on you, but whatever, just plan for it. Wow, what a guy the Maker is.
He's so cunty. That's what I've been saying in Discord conversations. Like, no one's serving like the Maker, as they say.
Yeah. It's wow, I can't believe we're already 1 year into this universe. Only one more year to go until he comes back and whatever big event happens. And I don't know if they have big universe-wide plans for after that or not. I'm not totally sure. I'm excited for this year, though, because I know we're getting Ultimate Wolverine next month starts, which will be cool. He's the Winter Soldier in this universe. And he's like kind of, I guess he's part of, Weapon X equivalent for the whatever mutant nation that exists in Russia that's run by like Colossus and all of them. So that'll be neat. Won't intersect much with the X-Men stuff Peach Momoko is doing, I'm assuming. And I think they're kind of throwing a bone to the people who kind of want more traditional X-Men. Like, here's your thing. You have this here.
Here are some of the characters slightly how you expect them to be.
Yep. So now you can lay off of complaining about the Peach Momoko book, which is pretty lit so far. I'm still enjoying.
Yeah, of what I've read, it is pretty cool.
I like that
especially
it's
how it like gradually expands the scope of the universe as the story goes on.
Mm-hmm. I like the whole cult thing they've got going on.
Yeah.
Character designs are very fun. And I like that it's doing its own, like it's involved, like it's in the universe, but like story wise, plot wise, all that. It's just doing its own thing. It's just chilling, and that's good for me.
The cynic in my mind is worried that these books won't get to continue if they aren't selling. But my hope is that like the whole conceit of the Disney machine means that it doesn't matter. Like people say, oh, comics currently just exist as like incubators for stuff for them to adapt into films.
Mm-hmm.
And that is evil, but I kind of like it because that means that people should be given more freedom to do the kinds of stories they want. Hopefully, maybe.
I'd hope so, but I feel like I feel like there's a little bit of tolerance if for something if it's steady, but if I feel like if things dip too low, they're pretty quick to cancel a book. That being said, it's impossible to really guess anymore because we don't have sales data anymore like we used to.
And I'm sure a lot of the readership is digital now.
Yeah.
They've been pushing for that for the longest time.
And we've never had good sales data to account for digital purchases. So really, it's who knows how each book is doing. Yeah. I suspect all the Ultimate books are doing pretty good, though. I know Amazing Spider-Man is doing well. I mean, just looking at one way I kind of gauge it, this isn't really like a super good sample, but it does give, because like our comic book subreddit is like heavily slanted with bias by like just who chooses to be in there.
Yeah.
But usually, books that at least make it into like the top 10 of the most pulled, they're probably doing more than fine on sales. If that sampling is all pulling it, they're probably fairly popular.
Oh, so it's like a digital equivalent of, what was that TV thing? The Nielsen ratings?
Kind of. It relies on self-reporting though, which is the only annoying aspect. Yeah. Like I wish they could you could like opt in to have like to have it scan your like Comic Geek account or something, but the way they do is every Monday they post a thread and then commenters go in and manually post a comment with what books they're pulling, and then someone or a bot goes through and tabulates it. So I guess on one hand, like that means, you're not only looking at people from a subreddit that are dedicated, you're looking at the handful of people that are also going in and posting, which means like they probably represent more than just that one person who's doing it probably represents like probably I don't know exactly what a conversion is, but multiple
well, considering that
consumers.
What we're discussing is mainstream comics, you could probably say that one person might stand in for at least like a few dozen.
Mm-hmm. As you know, each person that submits their pull list is 1 billion people. So 10 billion people have bought this comic book.
Imagine if that were the case. Like, that would be crazy. It would explode the whole manga is taking over comics boogeymanning people were doing on Twitter. Was it this year or last year? I feel like I've been hearing about that for too long.
I feel like they do it all the time now, and it's annoying. Although comics really need to get their act together, because looking at the numbers of graphic novel sales, they're doing piss poor compared to like manga, scholastic graphic novels, pretty much anything else. They just don't move very well. They I don't know. I think they really want to see growth. They're gonna have to at some point divert some resources or just find some wholly new resources to make to make stories for the graphic novel format,
Yeah.
and to really like try to coax in old readers, but approach like new audiences in ways. If they want to like grow, maybe they're fine staying at the size they're at now, but I feel like they are missing out, and they will get lost in the culture if they they will get left behind if they don't adjust. Though I
Not
guess
for a
the
lack of trying,
characters.
though. Like DC, I can tell is really trying to diversify. Like we have the Absolute series and stuff like that. But also, I came across this weird thing last week. It blew my mind. There is a cartoon airing on YouTube called Metal Force, and it is just the normal like Detective Comics superheroes that you know, but they are wearing like power suits and they've got these like tokusatsu like posing and shot framings, and
Oh, these
it's
are
all CG, but they're trying to make it look comic booky. And I don't
these
know.
are gonna
I
sell
want to
so many
hate it, but
toys.
I know if I were 12 years old, I'd be like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, these are gonna sell well. Yeah, I feel like the characters will never fall out because they'll always be able to whip out stuff like this, but the comics won't peak anymore. But I feel like DC's also kind of they're more I feel like actively working on this because they've got so many lines now where they're trying to put their books in new spaces and new size formats at cheaper prices.
Yeah.
Make it easier for people to just find a thing in a store that they can pick up without worrying about it.
Also, every new thing is a form of advertising, it seems. Like when it's just business as usual for DC, nobody cares. But then when DC does something new, it's like, whoa, hey, everyone, new thing. Check it
Mm-hmm.
out. Finally.
And now they've got all this hype coming from the fact that James Gunn is hopefully turning around their some of their other media presence. You know, I've not watched Creature Commandos yet, but it seems to be popping off.
Oh, yeah. Creature Commandos is very cool. You know how the other day I was showing off the Castlevania cartoon? It
Mm-hmm.
feels like that. It is American anime, in my opinion, in a good way.
Oh, exciting. I've been meaning to watch it all week. I've not got around to it, but now that it is officially vacation time for Jessica, I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to start catching up on shows.
That Superman movie looks cool too.
Yes, that's where I was going to go next. That trailer, I was so excited. One thing that's funny is I saw someone lining it up and his pose is just really close to the Yamcha pose when he's on the ground at the beginning. It is not the exact angle of camera, but like the way he's laying in the ground and the way they've got like the hole of snow around him, he's Yamcha'd out. And I saw people reading over that. Snyder fans mad. That is 9/11s for Snyder fans. I saw a tweet. It was like, what would Soups do? Call a dog to save him, or think of his father's words of encouragement and try again? And I'm like, my dude, you don't even know what happened before this. You don't know the context. For all you know, he wasn't even fighting. He was running away from the other side of the galaxy, crashed on Earth exhausted. Like, you have no idea what the fuck's happened. Now, do I think that's what's happening? No, but like, we don't know. That's the whole point. We don't fucking know. Like, and the dog is amazing. I love the dog. Crypto Super Dog being this little tiny, like curly haired fucking, I love it. And the fact that it's so cheesy. Sorry to just bulldoze, but like the effect of it running off in the distance and just coming up and like with all the snow, like I knew what was happening and I was here for it.
More of that, please. Like, I know there currently aren't plans to do like a continuity, which yes, please don't. But you know, a movie based on a comic book should be kind of like goofy, kind of like cartoony, but it is still a film.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it feels like. Like all the shots with Lex Luthor, like he is just I don't know what Luthor is doing in any shot that they teased, but he is at least like emoting. You know, the gears in his head are turning, and I can't wait to see what he's doing.
He is comic book villain to the max. Like, you know, I know there's going to be some kind of universe surrounding this, but they have expressed, James Gunn has, that he doesn't want this movie to be about universe building, which is what I'm happy about. No one, and like another thing I like is they didn't put the plot in the trailer.
That was interesting.
Scenes. I mean, it is a teaser, but I like that. A lot of people are guessing about the plot, and I've seen a lot of people thinking that he's probably pulling from like All-Star Superman or something. So I'm excited. I like how he has kind of that broccoli hair going on a little bit in his Clark Kent persona.
Yeah.
Everything about it. And the Nicholas Hoult for Lex Luthor. Like we said, he emotes, but he just has the face for it. He just looks like it. And they made him bald too. They were not, and it didn't look weird. Like Jesse Eisenberg felt weird as Luthor, and then when he was bald, he felt weird bald. Oh my God. And then the Green Lantern. I forget the name of this Green Lantern. I'm not super on my Green Lantern game. Guy Gardner. They have Guy Gardner in the trailer for like a second with the fucking worst bowl cut I've ever seen in my life. It looks terrible. He's such an asshole. And people are like, what's the lore behind this? Why does he look like a turd? And everyone's just like, well, he's kind of an asshole. That's why he looks like a turd. And I'm like, that's great. That's great.
That's how character design works. You make a douchey character look like a douche.
And I'm sufficiently teased. It'll be July 11th next year. I'm here for it.
I always forget that that's the appeal of having a summer birthday. I could, as like a birthday treat, go see a good superhero movie. Like when Deadpool and the Wolverine came out, that's what I did. It was like, oh, this came out near my birthday? All right, here we go.
Hell yeah. Yeah, Marvel is so dumb. They fired James Gunn for like a second, and DC picked him up and signed him on because he had this deal to do. I think, was it the Suicide Squad that he got hired on like for? Because I remember he left for a second, got a deal with DC, then came back and did Guardians 3.
Yeah.
And then...
And the Christmas special.
Yep, and the Christmas special. And then after, I think the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker stuff did really well. So they were like, okay, we're just going to have you. Because all their other movies kind of flopped out.
Yeah.
So yeah, had Marvel not done that, then their competition wouldn't be arguably poised to outpace them as far as quality content goes, at least.
At this point, yeah, like a new season of Peacemaker is on the way, and I kind of like feel in my gut that I'm not going to give two shits about whatever the next Marvel miniseries is going to be. Like Agatha was good, loved Loki, not really jazzed about anything else. Like if they announce a new season of the Winter Soldier and Falcon show, I'm going to be like, I'm going to skip it.
I doubt they do that with the Brave New World coming out, but Brave New World appears to be in trouble.
Also, I've noticed I keep going out of my way subconsciously to not mention it, but Secret Invasion was awful.
Oh yeah,
no more
I've
of that.
I've only seen like one episode of it.
I watched the whole thing, and I cannot really tell you about anything that happens. It's a lot of people running around and reacting to stuff, it feels like.
What a shame.
There's that ending bit where the Skrull people fight. I just didn't care about anything that was happening. I guess Rhodes is a Skrull, and he always has been. So that's a little fun conceit for why he is literally just a different guy in the first Iron Man movie. uh, just as a coincidence, though, because of course they haven't explained it, and I don't want them to explain it.
Yeah.
But yeah, whoever is in charge of all of that stuff, maybe seek a third-party consultation. Maybe find out if there's some way for James Gunn to like maybe do both. He could just become like the superhero film czar almost.
Honestly, I think that's why they went and got the Russo brothers back for their next big Avengers thing.
Oh no!
They're just like, please, for the love of God, fix our movies. Because the really big successes have all been outside of the original Avengers, was all under them. So yeah, they are desperately trying to get the sauce back.
Well, it couldn't hurt.
And that's where the stunt casting too, getting Robert Downey Jr. back to do Doom.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yep. I'm pretty sure they'll make it so that you don't really think about the fact that it's Robert Downey Jr. there. And if they do that, then it'll be good. Or not, well, you know what I mean? It could be like a real thing where he gets to flex some of his acting muscles, and it could be a really good take on the character. If they try to lampshade the fact that he's like a lookalike,
that will ruin it.
Yeah, that will be terrible.
Unless it like fits in the story in some way. Like they've kind of overdone the whole multiverse thing. So like as long as it's done in a way that is annoying, I could accept, this guy looks like Tony Stark because it's a alternate universe. Okay,
yeah,
fine, whatever.
I mean, they did the Chris Pine, or not Chris Pine, Chris whatever the fuck. They did a Chris Evans, right, as Johnny Storm in Deadpool Wolverine, and you know that worked. I mean, it was a gag, but like that worked. I wasn't mad at it. So
yeah, I liked that. That version of Johnny was also very funny.
Yeah, got to go out in a spectacular way, and the after credit scene was great too. I quite loved that.
It was very funny, like how he had all those terrible things to say about Cassandra, and then he's swearing, "No, I didn't say those things," and then she kills him. And then Deadpool reveals, "Oh no, he actually did say all of those things."
Yeah, it's funny how much shit Logan gives them, because Logan heard, but I guess Deadpool didn't have to say it.
That's a great payoff. Like, I know the writing for that movie was in peril apparently with the writer's strike, but I guess the bones that they started with were good enough.
Yeah. Then time will tell. The future will tell what happens with that. We're gonna see. Yeah, I don't have much hope for the Captain America movie though. As much as like I kind of hope it ends up not being bad, I'm just ready for it to be a pretty standard Marvel fare, because it was made, I don't know, I feel like it's been like in development for a long time at this point. So I feel like whatever was going wrong with the other productions is probably still going to be there.
Yeah.
So I don't suspect much improvement. But yeah,
I'm actually kind of confused about how long I've been hearing about this movie, because it feels like it should have come out a year ago, but that can't be right.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a time being weird thing or not. But it does feel like, but they did really slow down the release. I feel like they started not dragging them out, but they did start spacing them out a bit. Like I feel like
probably because of the whole what's his name, Jonathan Majors thing.
Oh,
not being
it's a
able
good
to
point.
lean the time frame on like the Kang rollout probably like blew up their whole thing. What if Brave New World was supposed to be the second season of that mini series, and then like, oh fuck, okay, we got to put this all as a movie now, reshoots, stats.
Yeah, I'm curious what the reshoots actually are, because they've done supposedly a lot of them. I don't know. Everyone always theorizes the crap out of reshoots these days.
Yeah.
Which is probably, I mean, it's probably warranted, but I just think it's, feel like like at this point, it just feels like every movie gets reshoots, and it's like, how much can you make out of it at this point? But I feel like it's a bad sign that the executives are too meddling. I think in general, they've
Oh
grown
yeah.
too meddly, especially over these the MCU. Like, they so desperately want it to be their money printer that they're just gonna they're gonna ruin it by not letting it do its thing, and occasionally have its fumbles. They just make everything a fumble by trying to make it too safe.
Well, that's the whole thing with Disney. Like, is it still a thing that their theme parks are their biggest moneymakers? I
Uh,
assume that must be like lowering or might be like wavering a bit, where maybe it would incentivize them to try and like extract more money than usual out of all of the other stuff. Like, uh, the animation stuff specifically, but most of their film stuff have been more or less advertisements for the theme parks, or at least that's what the conceit had always been relayed to me growing up as
mm-hmm.
like the thing. Like when a new Disney movie comes out, you know, it really just exists in part as like a genuine piece of art by the people that made it, but also it's been worked over and strategized, like, you know, well, this character is going to be a plushie, like there's no question about it. Or, you know, this will be a great character for people to see when they go to the theme park.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's shifted in the last like decade or so to where now they care more about the movies and want to like get more of that money back ahead of time rather than getting some of the money back at home release and then most of the money back when the theme park rollouts happen.
Yeah.
But I guess I have to wait for Defunctland to tell me if I'm right or not. That's the source I'm told on all things Disney and their fumbles.
Yeah, we'll need him to weigh in on this. I feel like they're definitely about, if not for the parks, definitely the merch. For sure. I feel like that segment is probably bigger than ever. Um
And I
Now
guess
they
I have
definitely do
gotcha
feel like
games
an
now.
IP farm. Yeah, ain't
Yeah.
that fucking Disney trading card game?
A trading card game.
Yeah, it's called let's see. TCG
That's crazy.
Lorcana is the name of it.
Lorcana. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
It bam, right here. It is Disney trading card game. Supposedly it's pretty good. I mean, I don't know. You can never tell with trading card game players, because people are really into trading card games. So play any trading card game, you know?
Yeah.
So you can never tell when they're great or not. But supposedly this one has some steam behind it, some momentum. But yeah, it's a full on Disney. I'm talking, I see in this product image here a Pocahontas theme deck. So they're all in. They're not skipping any property. There's Corilla DeVille is on a booster pack here.
I'm seeing Moana and Mickey,
All sorts of
Cruella, and the most untwinkified Aladdin I've ever seen in my life. I don't think his chest used to be that big. Look at this. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, he's been lifting. He's got some
He's been
pecs
hanging
under
out with
there.
Hercules or something.
Yeah, he went over to the Mulan universe for a minute, made a man out of him.
I think I remember that being a thing in the TV show. They would cross over like anything that wasn't Mickey Mouse.
I could see it. You know,
Although
they
I
should
don't
have
think
had
anyone crossed over with gargoyles. That would have been cool.
I wish Kingdom Hearts had more crossing over between the Disney realms. Like if they had one where maybe all of the levels are like two worlds that have crashed into each other or something.
Oh yeah, they kind of do that. The starting areas are usually the incubators for that sort of thing, but the characters never really interact. It's kind of just, oh, these characters are all here, like Traverse Town and Hollow Bastion.
Oh yeah, yeah. Hollow Bastion
But, yeah.
especially is interesting because it's almost like here's where we're gonna put all the RPG parts of our game. Like all the weird role playing lore is gonna happen in Hollow Bastion, and all the serious plot moments. I feel like
True.
in the epic, like all is lost. You know, Sora becomes like a heartless and then comes back there. All that stuff. It's where like all the princesses are. I don't know. It did feel like a very Isn't that even where like the portal to the last boss is around there?
Yeah, like that whole area has so much dumped into it. It makes up almost the entire third half of the game.
Yeah, it's God, Hollow Bastion. What a great! I remember I have really fond memories of that area. I spent a lot of time, I think, farming there and stuff when I was a kid.
Yeah, everyone was shocked when Goofy, like, quote unquote, died in the second game, but his epic moment where he saved Sora from being blown up was the precedent for that. The hardest character in all of Kingdom Hearts, freaking Goofy.
And they weren't as bad as I thought they were as a kid because I was just too stubborn to ever actually equip them gear or give them skills or micromanage them at all. I just let them be little dead guys when I was a kid.
It's good that they give the option, though. That's the best kind of game design where you have different options on how to play. I hate when I'm playing a game and the game insists, no, this is how you play. You're playing wrong.
But yeah, let's see. What else did I have going on this week? Power Fantasy 5 came out this week. So that's the end of its kind of first little arc.
Ooh.
And I've been digging this book a lot. I kind of kept it light on details just because each issue is like really dense with stuff and kind of hard, like I don't know, they all fit in. It's a really good book. Each issue has a lot going on. So far they kind of been giving backstory on characters, but the whole conceit of this story is it's kind of like an alternate Earth. I believe the part where we begin at's kind of taking place a little bit in the past relative to us, but the history is pretty different or fairly different just because of the existence of these superpowered beings that have been around for like a hot minute. And the way it kind of works out is that there's the status quo of this universe is there's a handful of these people called atomics that are really strong. And these people have powers or it's magic or it's not really totally even explained where all of them come from. One of them is literally from not our universe. They're like an angel or something that has come from outside of our universe and is here to, I don't know, help us or something. But they don't seem to, they're very human in their like personality and stuff, I guess. But they're not like a human. They kind of live with humans on Earth. They grew up going from house to house and just doing stuff. And like, it's very weird how that works out. But the way it works out in the current day where it starts is since all these people are so strong, they can't really fight each other because it would just fuck up the whole planet. Right. And they'd fuck up each other. And the governments can't really fight them So they have a weird alliance between themselves. There's like a balance of power, and everyone kind of stays in their lanes, and all the governments are reacting to it. And some of them are all antsy. They're all kind of doing stuff. One of the main characters that we follow is Etienne. He is a really powerful, like, psychic kind of mind person, and like so strong that he can kill swaths of people, like a whole continent, with his thoughts. He's like very big, but he's also all about his ethics and his morals, and this makes him very prone to like greater good stuff. So he doesn't have a problem like threatening or even doing a really extensive stuff if he thinks it's going to pan out better. Like part of how he keeps himself from being offed by any government, aside from the fact that he like hides himself as much as he can literally all the time with like psychic abilities, is like if he does die, he'll let off like a psychic contagion that will just wipe out a continent like that. Like he can't just be taken off the board. So to give you some context for how this book opens, the book opens with one of the guys, Etienne's having a lunch or like drinking tea with another character and talking. One of the other characters is going to flex their muscles a bit too much. He's got like this big rock he carries around the world, and he's got a whole bunch of people that live on it. And he's all like, I'm the shit, I'm awesome, I do whatever the fuck I want. And he starts to fly it over New York City just because he wants to, because that's what he's doing. And he's a little cocky bastard. And the US, like, I don't remember if it was like a nuke or a laser. They try to get him. They think they got him, but they didn't because he's super strong. He comes back. He's like not gone. So this is gonna kill everybody. So Etienne kind of steps in and barters with him. And it's like, listen, let's not do this. What do you want? It's like, okay, well, president's dead. Okay, president dead. Etienne just does it. All the advisors who told him that it was a smart idea to attack him, does it. All gone. All their families too, all gone. And then he gets them to back off and leave, and they don't have to have the big superpowered showdown. And yeah, so this guy, he just offs whole presidents and their cabinets and their families, and the world really can't do much about it, but it is what it is. Wow, and that's how the first issue starts. Yeah. And that's the first issue. And so this last issue has ended with one of the people. We find out some more backstory, and we learn about all this events. But yeah, it starts off with one of the people that I've not really talked about here. But he basically ends up as president, or president de facto, of the US now, because he has started helping the president. Each issue, we kind of get some backstory on some of the characters, not all of them, because they're sprinkling them out. The first big chunk of story arc is about 16 issues long, which is what, at least what the writer has said. At the end of each issue, it's like a little essay that he's written about different things. So in the first 5, we get for a few characters, and they're all kind of really interesting. Like, there's one character who's an artist, and I guess her power, we don't really know what it is, but it's really like fucked up and dark and can level cities, and it's like tied to her emotions somehow. So like, if she loses or flips out on something or gets upset, it'll like ruin it. So part of the world balance is Etienne is not really micromanaging her emotions, but kind of a little bit. Like he goes to her art show to not disappoint her. He has to take a plane. He has to get another hero to like watch his plane just in case a government figures out that he's on that plane and decides to try to attack him, because they might think that he's far enough away from a continent that he can't kill the whole continent, which they're wrong. But he doesn't want to actually die, so he has the person there protecting him. Oh, that character is the Angel character, by the way. He is like friends with the Angel character, because ever since he was a kid, he's had his really strong powers and he's been developing them, and he just gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And part of what's scary about these guys is all of them are like that. Like their power, like they just get stronger over time, which is kind of like a meta commentary on just how comic books work and how powers escalate and stuff. And you see flashbacks of when he's like a little kid, and that's how the like angel girl finds him, because she's like, I could see all the lines going through the world, but now I see they're coming to you. And he had reached out to her directly. So he's known her a long time. They always have her on standby, like they're always having her, she jokes around, I'm ready, if in case things get nukey. She's their Dr. Manhattan to stop nuclear war from killing everyone. So they kind of give that backstory. So he has that going over there, and then it turns out that she has a partner that's with her, and the partner like is like, fuck, man, I don't know if I can be with her anymore. It's like, I need some help. What should I do? It's like, oh, well, I can help you. I'll just like, tweak your brain a little bit and you'll forget the doubts and it'll all be good. And then she's like, wait, have you done this before? And he's like, me not telling you how many times I've done this is part of the deal. Like, and then they just do it and it all goes back. And it's like, wow, that is the kind of hold. And then eventually we find out that there's kind of a group to this. At some point, there was like a larger cult called the Triangle. One of the characters runs it. He's kind of like an anarchisty character, but he's like the smartest one. He seems to know the most about these powers. He creates this big cult. It has tons of followers, but he concentrates most of the power at the top. So like in the diagram here, and all of our main characters are like right below him here is like the implication. He's the one that kind of brought them all together and has helped kind of establish this. And we know it gets messed up. They did a really smart thing in one of the books. They gave us a little data page with a timeline, mentioned a whole bunch of really big events.
A Jonathan Hickman special, if I recall.
Yes. So this is actually written by Kieran Gillen, but he did a lot of work on the Hickman era for Koa X-Men. And as such, has picked up the data pages. He used them there. And I like that they are proliferating into other people that got used to them there are starting to use them. And I love it because they're so good for world building. But he did this timeline, listed all these events. And this was like an issue 3 or something. But they're putting there issue 6 is when this happens. Issue 10, issue 12. It's like the biggest fucking tease ever. And it's so good. Like this cult here, we see they get nuked at some point because they think it'll kill all the people at the top, and it ends up not doing it. But then we find out that the guy in charge was actually kind of in on it. But yeah, there's like no limit to the lowercase of members, but then he gets to the group that he calls the arseholes, and he only lets there be 50 of them. And then he gets to the next group, and he's like a cap of 22. And then the top group is just him. But like the higher initiates, they're the top 3% of all the people. So the idea is like he controls how much power they get because he doesn't want to give them like, world-ending shit if he doesn't think they can trust him with it. And this is the guy that actually has positioned himself. This leader has positioned himself to be president now, which is the new status quo. So it's going to be really weird. And the other characters know that he's kind of making a play because when one of the characters, the mind character Etienne, goes to Japan to go to that art show, he gets attacked by some people that are like hardened to his psychic powers and able to detect him, which is something only the other character could have, that Magnus, really smart leader character, could have given them. Which is interesting. And then also it's revealed one of them, Heavy, who's kind of the brash character that kicks off the events at the beginning where he's flaunting around New York. has a son that has somehow been kept hidden. I guess he's living in like a dome that's almost like a no ship from Dune or something. Somehow he's been hidden and is also really strong. So we're about to, so the current world order is going to get upended, and we're going to learn more past. And it's just so good. These first 5 issues are going to be in a trade in January, which is like the perfect time to pick them up if you haven't already. And then issue 6, I love this, the timing of this. Issue 6 comes out in February. So if you pick up the trade in January, you are set for the next month to just hop on board with everyone else.
Oh, that's smart.
Right? Like, Marvel never does that.
No, they don't. But yeah, I have been hearing about the Power Fantasy, but I am one of those assholes who avoids floppies. I will just wait for the trade. I don't want to have to recycle my chapter pamphlets when I can just get a whole book. Yeah. Which I know the market is kind of leaning away from that for certain titles. But you know, their loss. I'm a trade freak, unapologetically.
Yeah, I definitely I kind of prefer stuff I can put on a bookshelf, but I also am I don't know. I'm just a mark. I'm a mark. I'm blessed enough to have some money to spend on it, so I like to buy books when I can, just because it's fun to hold, but also to just kind of try to keep the hobby alive. But I definitely prefer like the hardcovers and stuff. My hardcover collection is way bigger than my floppy collection, by far. And I definitely am prone to double dipping. Like this one here, I'll probably pick up the trade, even though I'll keep the runs. Maybe one day in like 20 years, I sell the floppy runs. Maybe I don't. Maybe I keep them forever. Who knows? But I definitely have been known to double dip. But I agree with you. I love getting a big, especially hardbacks. Like oversized hardback books are my absolute favorite to get because of just having the art at a higher size too. Like you can really appreciate it sometimes.
Yeah, I feel like there aren't enough of those, or I'm just very bad at like identifying when there's a oversized release for something I care about.
It is hard because they're often limited, especially for indie stuff. They're often limited. And for like image books, a lot of times they'll do maybe one print run of a image book and an oversized. And then after that, they're only ever making compendiums, which are fine. That's fine to have. But if you're really into the hardback oversized, then, you kind of got to hop on it. I don't. I've been really bad about it over the years because it's a lot to keep up with. But yeah,
also,
I do.
On double dipping, I can't judge because even though I don't do that with comics, I definitely do that with video games. Like just in this past year, I've purchased like 3 copies of several games just because, it's a multi-hardware release. I never know which device it's going to run best on. And then there are factors like if it's a multiplayer game, maybe everyone's on PlayStation, even though it would be preferable to play it on PC. I want to play with my friends, garbage like that. So if anything, I'm more wasteful than you are because video games tend to be more expensive than books.
Good. I know that feel though. I have done that for a couple of video games in my life. Not a ton, but Fallout 3, when that was like a current game, I think I bought it on because I went through a cycle of owning every console.
Right.
So I would just buy it again for every console I was on. That and Dark Souls. And to this day, like I still, I got Dark Souls on my PC, got Dark Souls Remastered on my PC, probably have a Dark Souls on on PlayStation, whatever. I think the only one I never got it for was Switch because I was like, do I really want to play this on Switch handheld with this R button?
I really want to suffer through Blighttown on this underpowered computer?
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about Blighttown. Yeah, no, not for me. Not for me.
Did the Switch release have any exclusive stuff? Like they added a bunch of Nintendo nonsense to the Switch release for Skyrim, I think, which I still want to get a copy of. I shouldn't because I own enough copies of Skyrim at this point, but it has exclusive stuff. I gotta.
I think the re-release was. I don't think the Switch release had anything special. I know. Well, if it's remastered, they probably have the redone textures. I think is all they did. Some like higher fidelity textures. I don't think there are bug fixes or anything that I'm aware of. And I know there's no huge version differences like there are in Dark Souls 2. I know they have like a Scholarson's edition or something.
Yeah.
That's like supposedly very different, but I don't really know. I could never get into 2 long enough to play all the way through. I don't know what it was about it that just didn't click with me the same way.
It feels very sequel-ish. I feel like the majority of people that picked up Dark Souls 2 were feeling the sequelitis, not to invoke Aaron Hansen's namesake, but he made up the best term for what I think plagued that game.
Man, I love those 2 videos. Those I think because I wasn't in the Newgrounds scene, so I think for a long time those were like my introduction to him.
Oh,
And I loved those.
he should have stuck with that. He could have been a video essayist.
He could have been. But then he ended up being
like, "Hey, did you like that video? Well, you can see more of my fucking videos on my streaming service, Nebula."
Damn, we could have had Aaron Hansen on Nebula. What a world that would have been.
That would be crazy. Although I think Man Carrying Thing is also on Nebula, so that wouldn't be unprecedented. Let's see. Man Carrying Thing.
Holy shit. I recognize that name. What has he done that I've seen recently? I know
he does like current event / comedy style videos. They tend to be very short form, so it's kind of like current event comedy in the same way that like South Park might dedicate 2 minutes to a joke.
Yeah, I saw his you're like it was around the election. It was like your friend with incomprehensible politics. And it's this guy. It's so funny. I'm not even gonna try to say the jokes because they're too good. But basically the gag is the person has like totally insane out there contradictory politics, but he's about to vote in a swing district. Which is so real to life. Holy shit. And then that was made before the election. It aged so well because that voter won, as evidenced by like all the voters in the AOC district that like voted AOC, but also Trump. Somehow, I know like New York didn't go Trump, so it didn't matter. But like when you look at the stats of the election, see that these voters exist. It's very what the hell, like.
Yeah, it is mind-boggling. I would hate to be a political analyst because everything they know, all of their data, it's rubbish now. Got to start over.
Yeah. Starting from scratch. So other books reading this week. I might have talked about this. I might have skipped it because there wasn't a whole lot to go off of. But this is another book in the Ghost Machine imprint. So this is also coming out of Image, but Ghost Machine's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like an imprint or more so a studio or whatever, kind of just, how Image does it. Because Image doesn't really own all this stuff. They just like kind of goes through them. But these are all collected together. And then within it, they've got different things. I've been reading like a few things out of this. Like Rook Exodus and Geiger are 2 titles that are there for it. And within it, so the way it works, you got Ghost Machine and then they have these little groups And within the I guess they're all different universes or something. Because there's a bit in this book where they talk about oh, we're looking through all the timelines, and the panels show all these different realities, and they're like these other books that are under the Ghost Machine imprint. So I kind of like that, but they aren't really trying to connect each other or be a big thing. They're all kind of off in their own thing. But like the Unnamed, for example, that has Geiger and Redcoat in it. Those are loosely connected, but their stories take place like hundreds of years apart or whatever. So it's kind of that kind of deal. If you're familiar with like Brian Sanderson's, what does he call it? The Cosmere, whatever. If you're familiar with him, his Mistborn, how all those books are connected, where they're very separate, but there's like this little Easter eggy connection. It's kind of like that. This is like they're under their like Family Odyssey imprint, which they have advertised here with this little heart, heroics, and humor slogan. Basically, the conceit of this, it's a riff on the Fantastic Four. It's like your family hero group, except they are not superheroes. They are time travelers. So Fantastic Four meets Phil from the future. If anyone gets that dated Disney Channel reference, that is what it is. It's a mom, dad, 2 kids, a granddad, a grandma for 1 issue, and a pet doggo. They are running away from something. We don't really know what. The first issue, they are on the run. Ends in a big sacrifice from the grandma. We see them. They're living in our present, not present, undercover. They're kind of mourning the grandma, and they are stuck here. They are able to communicate through time. And I guess the main father's brother is like, hey, you got to stay there. The bad guys, we don't know what they want yet, but they're in universe. I think they know what they want. We, the readers, don't. But the bad guys are looking for them, and they've got to stay hidden. And they don't know how long it's going to be, so be prepared to be there forever. Feels like they are in time travel witness protection. The dad is a Reed
That's
Richards
an interesting
type.
premise.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's written by Peter J. Tomasi. He's done tons of work over at DC in the past. He likes family dynamics and books. You know, he's written Batman Robin books. He's written also written Green Lantern books. Like I said, he's done tons of DC work. But yeah, it's more or less Fantastic Four if you got rid of Johnny. It kept the kids, basically. The dad's super smart scientist guy. And then the other characters are still fleshing out. We're still fleshing them out, seeing what they are. The son's up to something. We don't know yet. He's one of the kids. He's hacking away. He's hacking computers on Earth. I don't know what for. But the second issue is very cute. It's a Christmas issue, which I think, it fits the time because it came out this month. It is Christmas time. I think it's really ballsy to go in on issue 2 of your series and make it a Christmas issue. Because it ties it to a time of year and stuff. I don't know. It just feels very, very interesting to go all in. But we get a few little world building bits here. So they go to get a Christmas tree. And I guess the kids wanted it, but I also guess the kids didn't really think through how it works. Because they go to buy the tree, and the guy makes a Peanuts reference, which they don't get, which was funny. But then he goes to cut down the tree, and the kid freaks out. He's like, no, don't cut down the tree. That's illegal. And they're like, what do you mean? And it turns out in the future, cutting down trees is illegal because there's not, I don't know, it's a harder future. There aren't as many greens. So they make a little scene by accident, and then they're like, oh, you know what? Here's some money. We're just going to leave. Don't worry about it. So they're, oh yeah, the kid finds some birds or something. He finds a bird's nest from the tree, and he's like, let's take these home and raise them because they have no mama bird or something. So they get home, and the dad sciences up a tree that he just grows with some sample from that tree so that they don't have to kill a tree. But then his science got away from him, and in the middle of the night, it starts to grow too big, and it starts destroying their house. and they have to drag it out into the woods and, set it up someplace where it will be not a problem. And they do, and it's all good. And that's kind of the whole little event that happens. It's a cute book. We get a glimpse of the villain a little bit. They're still coming, and they're looking freaky, but we don't know totally what's up with them. But it is very implied that they're hot on their trail. So it's exciting. So yeah, I like the premise. I like the...
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard of this Ghost Machine imprint. This sounds exciting. Like, I'm always interested in all new comic stuff. Every year, it's kind of like, oh, the big two. I hate the big two. What else is new? But then I'm too lazy to actually like check and see what's new.
Yeah. This is fairly recent. And I like it a lot. I'm reading, I've read 4 or 5 books off this imprint. This one is, like I said, The Family Odysseys. There's another book with it that I've not read at all. I'm not super interested in. They've got Hyde Street within it, which is a couple of horror books, I think. I don't really know what's up with them. Rick Exodus,
I think I've heard of that one. That had some cool looking covers.
Yeah. I feel like I've heard good things about it, but I can't totally remember. I just feel like I'm in a few comic discords and I feel like I see chatter about it, but I'm not totally committed them to memory. Also, they have some sponsorship with coffee. There's always coffee ads in the back of the book.
There's a lot of that going around. I recently found out that a screamo metal artist I listen to has her own coffee flavor, and what is going on? Why is everyone trying to sell me coffee?
Yeah, I don't know. That's
it's just the new macaroni and cheese crossover
for adults this time.
Yeah.
Well, we are the generation that grew up on macaroni and cheese crossovers.
True.
We're primed for it.
I'm not a kid anymore, Mom. I don't want Spider-Man macaroni. I want Spider-Man coffee.
Yeah. I want that Hyde Street blood orange dark coffee, which is actually the one that they have here in this advertisement. Comicsoncoffee.com.
Wow.
Yeah, Rick Exodus is off in its own. This one is on hiatus. I think it's my favorite right now, personally. It's a sci-fi story on a planet that is terraformed in the future, but the terraforming engine is shutting down and is in danger, and the planet's fucked. And I guess the company that has started this terraforming thing is just fuck it, we're not doing anything about it. So all the people there are either trying to escape or trying to make it work. And there's a bunch of people that have these helmets. They're supposed to work for, I guess, the company there. They each have a helmet that's attuned to a species of animal, so they can kind of control that species of animal. And our main dude has a crow one. And stuff happens. It has a little 6-issue arc that's good. I enjoyed. It's going on hiatus until sometime this year, so that they don't have to worry about rushing any art. They're taking their sweet time, which I'm more than happy to wait for it, because the art is a selling point on this book. It's very good.
Yeah.
And then the last little one is The Untamed. This is where most of it is. It's where the book started. And that has Geiger, who is a guy who's in a Fallout post-apocalypse world. It starts off, he gets his family in a bomb shelter thing. And this book actually had a little mini series before the ongoing started. So it had a whole little story kind of about that. And then it has gotten to issues, I think 8 of its ongoing at this point. But he is a radioactive man. Kind of the bad guy in Batman Beyond. He glows green. You can see his skull. He controls it with these rods that he can put in his back that are lead rods that you would see in a nuclear reactor, like the control rod kind of deal. They're playing on that. They call him in universe, he's the glowing man. His family died. He, for some reason, doesn't age. So he's been alive since the nuclear war happened. And for a long time was just guarding the bomb shelter he presumed that his family had been in or were still in. But at the end of the first little arc, it turns out they're not there. But, you get to see the current state of the world. The world's pretty fucked. You get like little weird kingdoms and stuff. Like at first he's being hunted by, and like I'm talking, they're like dressed up in knight armor. Like they're playing with the kingdom literally. So that's kind of cute. Another one that's in this universe, but we've only seen like a little bit because we've seen this character in Giger's time, but his main story happened more around our time. Is Junkyard Joe. And Junkyard Joe is like a robot that was made in Vietnam to kill soldiers. And I guess what happens is there's a dude who encounters, a unit encounters this robot in Nam. So the robot had been sent to Nam to kill a bunch of people and like went totally like off the walls, got lost. The government doesn't know where he is, runs into this group. The robot kind of has a good heart and doesn't want to kill people and ends up saving this one dude's life, but then disappears. And he tries to tell people about it, but everyone tells him he's crazy. And when there's one guy is like kind of hinted at, is actually looking for the robot, but when he goes to talk to him, by this point he's been told, if you keep saying this stuff, you're going to go to Looney Bin. So he recants the story. And he goes on to make a comic that's super famous called Junkyard Joe, where he makes like a little Sunday strip about a perfect robot soldier or whatever. And he does all that. The time goes forward. He's an old man. He's retired. And the story is basically about this family that has moved in next to him. The mother of this family has died. The father is still processing it. So he's kind of like up and moved his family someplace where it's completely new to try to avoid thinking about it. And the kids are upset about it. They're not happy. The daughter is also an artist, but she's the most mad at the dad. So obviously she's kind of who we're following. She ends up kind of befriending the neighbor who is a rich retired comic person. More like spying on him, kind of.
As one does.
Yeah, exactly. But who shows up? But Junkyard Joe shows up at the dude's house. It tracked him down, I guess, from seeing the comic somehow. I guess maybe he heard he retired or something. He shows up. They're doing stuff together. And, eventually the government comes a knocking. They want their robot boy. The story has a neat little end. It's very good. It's probably like from like a storytelling, art, like that kind of perspective. It probably has the most of like a heart of any of the stories. It not schlocky in the slightest. But it's good. But that character shows up in other stories, which is kind of neat. There's even a little hint in there because like in part of that story, there's like a portal that opens up and you see Geiger in it and someone else. And it's like, wait, is this the guy we're looking for? It's like, yeah, but this isn't when we want him from. So then it skips. And you're just like, what the fuck was that? But if you read the other books, And
okay.
It's not important to the plot, so it doesn't really derail you, but it's interesting. So,
it's just like a cool comic booky aside.
Exactly. I think the last thing I really have that's worth talking about comic-wise this week is that Ram B's The New Gods started. The New Gods are a DC property that was created by Kirby. This is where Darkseid comes from.
Yeah.
It's, you have like two factions. There's roughly a good one, roughly a bad one. A Highfather being like the equivalent to Darkseid. Darkseid has just been killed in the DC universe or something like that, I believe, as part of the big event that happened before DC's All In. I didn't read that because I was not super interested on the mainline universe side of All In's story. I was interested in it in the fact that it's what led to Absolute starting. But aside from that, because it's not really important to know, I didn't really care too much. But it factors into this New Gods a little bit. The basic premise of this story is there are newer gods happening now. A new god has been born. The new gods are kind of, I guess they've been around so long that I guess now they are the old gods. They don't explicitly say it, but that's kind of what's happening. They've detected that the Source Wall has sent out another god to be born somewhere on Earth, and Highfather has ordered Orion to kill that child.
Oh shit!
Orion
he would do it too.
Yeah, Orion will do it. Orion doesn't want to do it, but he follows orders, and he's totally going to do it. So what does Orion do? He goes and finds Scott Free, a.k.a. Mr. Miracle, and is like, hey, I've got to kill a kid, but I don't want to kill a kid because this is the DC universe, and heroes don't do evil things. I need you to go find the kid because I know you will escape me, and you're the only one who can do it. And if I do find this kid, then I'll kill him. But Scott Free doesn't want to, but we know he's going to because it's a DC book. And that's kind of the premise of where it's starting out. I think it's interesting. I'm excited. I like that you kind of really don't need to have read. I've read a good bit of the Kirby New God stuff, but not tons of it. But I like how it doesn't rely on any of that. You get really introduced to the characters that do show up. They don't show everyone, but the ones that do show up, they introduce very, well, and it's very cool. And the art is like fucking spectacular. It is really good. The guy is firing on all cylinders. Even like there's like flashbacks of the past and stuff, and like it looks very good. It looks quite epic. There's like
I don't read a lot of DC stuff, but these new books have been piquing my interest with some of the artists that they've been picking up for these newer books.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a fan of the, I guess it's old hat now, but the DC house style. So I'm glad that they're branching out a bit.
Yeah, it still has a lot of that representational look that DC likes to have, but it's very in its own. The way the line weights are, the way it almost reminds me of like Chichetto from Ultimate Spider-Man a little bit. I think that's his name. I always forget how to pronounce. But he's the guy who also did Chichetto. He's in Ultimate Spider-Man right now, that artist. And he also did like with Charles Soule, that Daredevil run that everyone loved. So he's pretty on fire. And the way he draws faces and stuff really reminds me here. I think the artist here is Evan Cagle. And he's killing it. Oh, hey, cat. Yeah, that is it for me, comic wise. Oh, wait, I cannot talk about this. Finally, reading Vinland Saga.
Oh, hell yeah. That's a classic.
Yes. I have just finished volume 6. So to put that in terms that people who know the story will understand, Prince Canute has just got his balls. So he's actually taking charge now. I've read most of this in like the last 2 days, because 2 or 3 days. I've been like picking up the deluxe volumes for a bit because I was interested in doing it, and then I read about half the first one, but then just didn't get around to finishing it. But now I've been reading it again, and I've been blowing through them. I'll probably catch up to what I have in the next few days. But it is sick. It's so good. The art's good. The characters are good. I love Askeladd. He's such a crafty little guy. Thorfinn. Oh my goodness. Not Thorfinn. The other one. The one who wants to fight Thorfinn. Thorkel, I think his name is, or something like that. They sound like Smurf names. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have no brain capacity for remembering any of the characters' names. I only like know a character based on their character design and like plot context.
Okay, this guy.
Eventually, I'll commit them to memory.
He's the guy who has the two axes, and Thorfinn fights him at the beginning but doesn't win, and he cuts like his fingers off. And ever since then, he's like, man, I want to fight that kid again, because he hears that he's like the son of Thor's, and he's like, I knew Thor's. That guy was awesome. He was like a true warrior. I want to see what's up with him. I think he was like a traitor. He was on their side, but then he betrayed the Viking people because he got too bored of winning. So he started working with the English towns, and that's kind of what it is. But now he had a big duel with Thorfinn, and now it's ended up that they're all on the prince's side now. So they're not even enemies; they're like allies now. But I don't know. It throws me for loops. They do nice little twists and turns. Uh-oh. No, cat. No. Don't knock down that. No. He's being ornery today. But yeah, that is the only other thing that I have been reading. I read through, I think I blew through like 3 volumes of that like the hour before we started, just because I was into it.
Yeah, I am not fully caught up on that series, but of what I've read, it's really cool. I definitely recommend anyone that hasn't read it, definitely read it. Ignore the anime. You don't have to watch it.
I've heard the anime is good though, but I've only seen like a couple episodes.
It's goodish, but as with like any sort of anime adaptation, there is like an ending where there is more that the book covers. Mm-hmm. So in that kind of scenario, it's like, just read the book. Like, don't do that to yourself, watching the anime and then going, oh, well, where's the rest? It's probably not coming.
Yeah.
Although it could, a lot of stuff from like the early 2000s has been getting like continuations and reboots and movie sequels. Like Gundam Seed is back.
What?
Don't know why, but it's back in a movie form. Who could have guessed that would happen? Seed of all series.
Not me. Is this a reboot? Is it a sequel?
It seems like it's a sequel.
Wild. Absolutely wild. Damn, damn. What? Is Japan really nostalgic for Gundam Seed now?
Maybe. There would certainly be a reason to assume that people would care. Like, everyone who watched it as a kid is our age. Mm-hmm. And knowing what we know about nostalgia cycles, this is kind of like people looking back at the 70s and the 90s and then being like, let's make a movie in the 90s about something from the 70s for all the 70 people's money.
Mm-hmm.
Which is annoying to think about, but I guess it's a consequence of the entertainment market.
And it's a much more traditional. It has always felt like the favorite child of the alternate universe Gundam properties.
Kinda, yeah.
Like Gundam Wing was really popular for a little bit over here in the US, but like Gundam Seed followed much more of a traditional like Gundam kind of plotting.
And more people had easy access to it. Like, it would rerun on Cartoon Network like almost constantly. I think at one point they were airing it like every day, every evening for several summers. Probably like around 2006, 2007-ish.
It was like one of the anime I remember, really realizing like, oh, this is digital,
Oh, yeah. It's got the digital fingerprints all over it. almost to a fault. They had to go back in and fix a lot of it, which is normal now. The TV releases for stuff, depending on what you're watching, will usually get touched up before the eventual home release, which is cool. I do appreciate that they do that.
Yeah, I think it's great to add some value to the product, but it is funny to think that like when you eventually see it, you might have a better experience than the people who watched it week to week, which is kind of wild. It is fun when people point out the differences.
Yeah.
That's always neat. Or then you get the ability to collect the rare recordings of the first airing, etc.
Yeah, I think my favorite example of that is the Monogatari cartoon series. It's a series of light novels that are more popularly known for its anime adaptation. But when the anime was getting made, there would actually be like entire sequences where no animation was done. So you'd get full screen color frames just as a consequence of the deadline, but also as a creative decision. That would eventually get replaced with the actual animation in the home release. But the majority of people who know about the show know about the television airings. And so, like, those missing frames are a core part of its identity as a series. So, you actually want the television release rather than the fixed, quote unquote, fixed Blu ray release. Because you want those full screen color frames.
You know, they should package up the unfixed version and sell it as its own product.
They probably could. Like,
double the money.
I don't think anime stuff sells enough. So any gimmick is probably to any publisher's benefit. I actually wonder like what the sales data for that kind of stuff is like in general, because recently Sony bought up a bunch of shares in Kodensha, which is like the biggest comic publisher in that industry. And it's like, why would Kodensha even have shares to get like glomped up by Sony? Also, Sony, why are you buying Kodensha shares when you can't even do good Spider-Man villain movies? What are they doing over there?
I think, you know, I kind of wonder if this has been feeding into some of this other, because I've seen some unrelated stories about Crunchyroll, people dooming on it. And I think it might be related to this, actually.
Oh, I believe it. Sony's kind of been on a big anime gambit for a while. They started out by buying Funimation, which is like the biggest distributor for us domestically, or at least it was up to a point. But then was superseded by Crunchyroll. And then for some reason, regulators allowed them to buy Crunchyroll. So it feels like, aside from whatever Amazon and Netflix are putting out, Sony might be the majority holder of anime releases in the US and whatever other appropriate territories there are.
Yeah, what I saw is basically someone saying that you know, industry leaders never stay on top forever because eventually something catches up to them. With Netflix, it was dealing with rights to some degree and not having their own content. And with Crunchyroll, kind of the same thing. They came in and snagged up a bunch of the distribution rights for anime and kind of made their thing off that. But now this move here is kind of a signal. Sony owning Kodensha means they can keep the rights in-house, have their own arm of distribution, especially for like things like merch. They talked about how, like, you know, Funimation for a long time was buying up the ability, you know, doing the home releases and stuff.
Yeah.
Now Sony can do their own home releases for all of the Kodensha manga property that end up as anime. That's
important to note
big.
Also is that Sony can't be counted on to do proper home releases what they're probably going to do is use that leverage just to pad out Crunchyroll, because the market is all services. They don't want to sell you things. They want to sell you subscriptions.
True.
And so the real market leader Riz, for lack of a better term, is who has the most stuff to justify the cost of the service. Like that old meme of like, oh, the majority of people paying for Netflix are just watching The Office over and over again. You know, whoever has like all of Dragon Ball or all of One Piece, you know, imagine the revenue from that.
Big true.
I could definitely see people dooming over it though, because you don't really want to have a single company lording over all of that stuff. Like, we kind of joke, oh, it was better when Netflix was doing it because it was just convenient. But if it stuck, Netflix definitely would have overstepped in some way or another. It's good, actually, that they got ousted by all of the publishers going, hey, wait a minute. Why don't we just have our own streaming service?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of, I don't know, all this stuff globbing up into one thing. I'm also not really a fan of having the streaming wars with a billion different streamers, but
yeah,
I definitely kind of wish we, I don't know, move away from content producers owning their own distribution. I don't like that vertical integration there. I feel like that's bad.
I think it's good, but the service model is what's bad, because it's trying to take the place of what advertising used to do, where the content exists to sell ads in most cases. Like a lot of television, Fox especially, our favorite example as a peak television, only exists for whatever amount of attention they can grasp away from you in service of ads. And because of the huge push against ads online, everything has to then pivot to being a paid for service. It's not good, but it's a consequence of the market.
Yeah.
And the interests of the publishers who want the most money for the least amount of investment.
Yeah. I just
which advertising used to cover.
How many of these we've got is kind of the big thing. It's like a few have to fail soon so that we can get it congealed down to a manageable amount.
Yeah.
Because it's starting to become bloated.
Like, we don't need Paramount Plus. Paramount, you know, it's cool that you tried, but really, you know, put all of that stuff on Netflix.
Yeah, or one of them. Pick one and put it there. More people will watch Star Trek. I guarantee you, more people will watch Star Trek if you don't put it on Paramount Plus.
Just put it where people are already.
Yeah. Pick a Netflix or a Hulu or fuck it, an HBO Max. They'll put anything on HBO Max now. It doesn't matter anymore. It's always just even Max now.
Which is kind of funny because who bought Warner Bros. Last? I can't remember. Oh, Discovery. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, he was like, let's just separate ourselves off from this HBO branding that everyone loves on the app, and also kind of low-key ruin the brand by association, which is weird.
I definitely understand why, like, in light of the acquisition, because then they can rope in all of that other stuff and it would just be like, oh, we can put whatever on Max. But yeah, it made more sense to keep HBO because people don't have any sort of like, I guess, gripes with that brand. Like, usually when people think HBO, they think quality. People still remember The Sopranos, for example.
Mm-hmm.
They should have stuck with that.
Which I still not got around to watching. I've been meaning to, but every time I think to go do it, I'm just like, later.
There's too much television now. When there was like less of it, or at least less of it that one could point to and say, now that's great TV, it would have been easier. But now every time I think about watching The Sopranos, there's usually like a cartoon that's calling for my attention. And then when I run out of cartoons, there's some anime, or I'm behind on Linus Tech Tips.
Yeah, that is how it is these days. Too much media that's worth watching.
Which isn't a bad thing. It used to be with television, everyone had access to the same shows, so everyone was just watching the same thing, for better or for worse. But now everyone gets to enjoy their own stuff, for better or for worse. A lot of people would prefer to just spend thousands of hours watching Twitch streamers, which, more power to them, I guess. They're missing out, though. It's a lot of good TV out there.
Yeah. It's an embarrassment of riches these days in the media landscape.
Yeah. Which actually, I'm glad I mentioned Twitch, because that actually kind of ropes into what we were saying before about the distribution models. No longer wholesale supported by advertising. Television people have to like sell you the television as a service. Who's thriving from advertising? Streamers. That's crazy. It's almost like live content is where advertising thrives. That's nuts. I wonder if there's like data on this. I hope someone's doing a study on this.
The only Twitch related study I've seen recently is I think I saw something floating around about how gamers spend more time watching Twitch than gaming now.
I believe it. That's been one of my complaints since the Justin TV days. More people would just prefer to watch someone play a game. But the problem is that like a lot of the people streaming aren't good at games, or they're streaming games that are easy to play. Some of them are good, like narrative adventures. Like I hear mouthwashing really took off because of streaming. But yeah, more complex games, I don't think you'll see a lot of like
is mouthwashing a game or a streamer or
mouthwashing is a
practice
narrative kind of like visual novel / puzzle game. Gotcha. About some people on a outer space transportation cargo ship, and the narrative follows each character kind of in different scenarios throughout the narrative. Like the perspective shifts throughout, and it's kind of up to you to piece together based on what's happening, what you know about certain characters, in order to figure out like whose perspective you're following. And it has a lot of interesting things to say about like misogyny, capitalism, the leverage that people give to abusers, either through inaction as well as deliberate actions that those kinds of people take advantage of. And those same people and their conscious or subconscious refusal to take responsibility for their actions. All of that is probably spoilers, but it's a long enough game that you can kind of like describe it without ruining it. It's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting that a lot of people will just sit down and watch someone else play it instead of playing it themselves. But it's been blowing up like crazy. One thing that I appreciate is that the internet fandom does that thing where everyone's talking about it and doing fan art and stuff, but none of it gives away the game. So it's almost like free advertising for the game. You'll see a bit of mouthwashing fan art, and it won't represent anything about the game. But if it's interesting enough, maybe someone will actually play it.
Oh yeah, they'll Google the shit out of that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, fan art's always a really good barometer for it can tell you two things: either how big the game is or how dedicated the fan base is. And both speak to some kind of quality in there.
Like Deltarune.
Yeah, Deltarune. Even Undertale has the same thing where like I discovered Undertale from weird fan offshoots more so than it. Like
there are a lot of those, yeah.
Yeah, like I found it from a song about a fan offshoot. It was called Flowerfell. And so
that's crazy.
Yeah, I worked back and then I found Undertale and I was like, oh neat. And then I played it for like, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes and watched videos about it after that because I'm terrible about games. I don't really narrative games. I'm the kind of person that will watch more about a narrative game than actually play it. As a kid, this like was offset by the fact that I just only had access to a few games and fewer activities. So like I was kind of forced to finish my games a little bit. As an adult, I have too much shit to do to finish games.
I feel like that scenario of how you discovered Undertale would be like if someone saw a fan music video for Galaxy Quest, but they didn't know that the music video was for Galaxy Quest, and then worked their way backwards from that to discover Star Trek. Which probably happened in real life. We just don't know.
I mean, honestly, probably. I mean, what year did Galaxy Quest come out? I don't even know if I was a huge Star Trek fan when I saw Galaxy Quest the first time.
Oh.
It's hard to tell. I can't remember exactly when I got... Because I remember my earliest memories of Star Trek are disliking it just for the meme that I was supposed to dislike it because Trekkies and Star Wars fans don't like each other, which is like, I'm pretty sure... I don't know if there was ever like a kernel of real truth to that or if that was completely manufactured by the internet. But
I'm sure it's one of those weird internet lies. Like everyone's just echoing the opinion of one guy.
Yeah, I think so. Because I definitely even had reasons. Like as a kid, I was like, oh, it's too boring. But I don't think I ever actually tried to watch it because I know once I started watching it, I was like hooked. I saw like a couple episodes of TNG. And like I was hooked. Picard.
Yeah, I feel like at that point the reaction for like any given person would be, "Oh boy, 2 cakes."
Yeah, exactly.
Especially with the infrequency of Star Wars in comparison to Star Trek.
Mm-hmm. Way more Star Trek content to consume.
Yeah.
And it was daily. And it was after I got home from school. It was perfect. Very odd choice for Spike TV for men. They just, I mean, it makes sense because it's a nerd show, but they didn't advertise themselves as like, it tried to be like kind of like a very macho channel, I feel like, which
it did have very bro-ish branding. It was more prominently, it stood out more against something like G4, which earlier on was just tech TV. Mm-hmm. But when it switched to G4, you could tell, oh, they're cribbing so heavily from Spike TV.
I remember G4 even for a while did their own like marathoning of the original series of
Yeah,
Star
it
Trek.
was like every day in the morning.
For some reason, I remember going to visit some family out in the boonies during one summer or something. It was a weekend, and the only thing being on to watch was Star Trek: The Original Series on G4,
Wow.
and I was just so bored. Um, there's nothing else to do. The adults were all off, I don't know, doing whatever adults do, talking, and the kids are just in there. They had a giant TV, like giant CRT TV. I don't know how or why. It was a little messed up. The colors were a little fucked up on it. I remember that. Don't know why. Maybe that's why they had it. It was they got it cheap because it's fucked up or something.
I
It was
believe it.
huge. Like that thing must have weighed a ton. I did like I as a kid I remember just being in awe that like they made a TV that big as a CRT.
My
Because it's
thought was always,
definitely,
how did it even get into the house? Because sometimes it would be taller than the door frame.
you know, now that you say it, in my imagination, when I view the memory, it's definitely too big to get in that house. It must be
Right?
smaller than I'm remembering. But yeah, I don't know how they got it in
Maybe
there.
I was just too small to like get the scaling right.
No, I think they built the part of the house around it. They had to have. I don't know how. I mean, they were the type of people to do that. They actually they had like this house that they lived in too. Was like in the woods, kind of like you'd be on this little road in the middle of nowhere, and then you turned left, and this little dirt road would go down in through a bunch of trees, and then you see there's a
Ooh.
clearing and there's a house. And then when one of their kids grew up, they just built a house next to the house.
Oh, so they owned like acres. Hell yeah.
Yeah, like out in the middle of nowhere.
That's the move.
I don't know how much of the adjacent stuff they owned, like all the wood stuff, but it was definitely a big plot that they owned for their main house and the other house. And then next to it, they had a big, almost junkyard, and they had a garage that I think some of them like did car mechanic work out of. I don't know if they did it like as a full-on business or if they had, I don't really know what they did, but it was always interesting going there.
I
And
wonder
the
how much car mechanics make. Like, it must be a lot because every time I go to a car mechanic, I feel like I'm getting fleeced. But I don't know enough about cars to know for sure. But
they
it must be big
probably,
business for them.
I imagine they do well for themselves if they don't work for like a big chain, like Jiffy Lube or whatever,
Oh yeah.
or one of those big. I imagine if they work for themselves, they probably do pretty good. But I feel like everything's turning into a chain, kind of, and I feel like once that happens, you just get fucked as far as wage goes and money goes. Weird
Yeah,
to think
because
about.
then it would be a like cost saving thing where everything gets whittled down and regulated,
They're mathing
but not like
everything out.
properly regulated.
Yeah,
Regulated in the interests of the company.
exactly. So, yeah, what have you been getting into this week?
Not a lot. I've been doing a lot of drawing, a lot of humbugging, a lot of getting into fights on discord.com.
Ooh, gotta love it. Gotta love it.
I am not a very good Christmas participant. When it came time to actually like consider days off for the month of December, I opted for none. I figured it would be more to my benefit to be at work when my coworkers are taking holidays uh, in order to like get some overtime. But the thing is, no overtime has been offered because my department opposite is working all of the evenings now.
No.
So things have kind of just been plateauing for me. Thankfully, that gives me more time to draw.
Hey, that's always a positive.
Yeah.
Love getting
Feeling pretty
drawing
good
time.
about the new year in terms of art things. But in terms of comics and film and such, not a lot happening. I've been rewatching a lot of The Simpsons, getting caught up on American Dad, and watching Christmas movies, which I'm not super big on, but it's been interesting to see all the Christmas films that I have not been watching. Like the other day, we watched Scrooged.
I was gonna ask you,
really cool.
How'd you feel about that? That is one of my favorite Christmas movies. I think I watch that every year.
I've always considered myself a Bill Murray fan, but I've never like proactively seeked out anything Bill Murray.
Mm-hmm.
It usually just like manifests itself before me because, you know, it's Bill Murray. Why wouldn't they show it on TV? Everyone's going to watch it.
Yeah. You know what's funny? That scene where he's remembering being a kid and the dad just gives him meat.
Yeah.
That always reminds me of the Aqua Teen Hunger Force, where Carl is remembering his like the robot is making him remember his childhood Christmas, and the dad gives him carpet. That. He's like, you can't eat it like that. You gotta boil it first. It's so bad. It just reminds me.
That must be a real world experience for that age group of writer.
Must have. It makes sense because you think about that when it came out in the 80s, you got the writers are always old. Maybe the person writing this was a Depression era person.
I believe it. Like a lot of writers in Hollywood tend to be older than I would have ever imagined. Like apparently the guy that wrote Jingle All the Way was making movies back in the 70s. I was like, oh wow, okay. Wild. That explains a lot of the weird intricacies of Jingle All the Way, though.
Yeah.
Like how action figures are referred to as dolls.
Yeah.
Which, fair, that is what they are. Action figure is a marketing term. But I'm not supposed to know that.
Yeah. A little kid isn't supposed to know that. Little boy in the 90s would be caught dead before he let his action figure be called a doll.
Yeah.
But yeah, Scrooge, classic for anyone that doesn't know. It's a take on A Christmas Carol, but kind of done through the lens of 80s corporate America, particularly a TV production company. The main character is a TV executive. Like all executives, he's terrible. He's awful. He's just the worst. And then he gets changed by Christmas. And I even kind of like that the end doesn't even really end. You don't find out what happens to his character afterwards. You just know he's a good guy now, which I guess is kind of how A Christmas Carol ends too.
Yeah.
But it's very funny. A very, very funny little movie. Lots of gags. I love how wild the Christmas ghosts are. The part with the ghost in the taxi cab that like kind of goes through stuff. The Harry Potter movies, when Harry Potter's on the bus, always kind of reminded me of that part from Scrooge.
Like yeah, I can see that. There's a kind of kinetic energy in both of those that you don't get a lot of from scenes involving automobiles in movies.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder why that is.
Thinking back on it, this is kind of a weird blind spot to have, but I don't think I've ever actually watched the movie Speed. Like, I've seen so many jokes about Speed, but I don't know if I've ever actually seen it.
Oh, it's pretty good for what it is. How about Crash? Have you seen Crash?
I know I've never seen Crash.
Okay. Yeah, car movies be crazy. Not to be confused with the Fast and the Furious. That's a whole different kind
Oh
of car
man.
movie.
Yeah. The other day we were watching Dragon Ball Daima, and they introduced that other Boo. And someone was making jokes about Boo Brothers, and I just kept thinking about what's that? God, there used to be this show, and it is about like these two brothers in the South, and they drove a car, and I think the car maybe had a Confederate flag on it or something, so it wouldn't be chilled today. But
my brain is saying Starsky and Hutch, but that can't be right. Let's see.
Dukes of Hazzard? Dukes of Hazzard, yeah. They're brothers, and they always talk about there's like two whatever boys, and someone was making a joke about this two Boo boys. I was just picturing the two Boos being like in Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh.
Or the two Boos being Blues Brothers.
That would probably go over well as like a bit of fandom art.
Oh, like that probably would.
That lady that they're always hanging out with. That could be what's her face? That
oh my goodness, you're right. The one that made them. Because I remember they had they made like a Dukes of Hazzard remake of a while back that did nothing.
Yeah,
but I remember they put like a really hot girl as like the girl they hang out with.
Yeah, and a video game. That's why it clicked in my brain, because I played the video game. So that's my cultural context for the entirety of that story and those characters.
Yeah, Dukes of Hazzard was way too Southern for me. I never got into it as a show for itself. I got into it as jokes on Family Guy more so. Like I knew it existed before that because people like around me liked it, but I never got it. It never clicked for me. I think it's because I was not a car person or like a person who's like Southern stuff, or a racist who liked the Confederacy a lot. So it just never really clicked for me. I can't believe it had a video game on the PlayStation, PlayStation 2, no less. But I see one for PlayStation as well.
Yeah, it's early enough for it to have been a cross-platform thing, I guess.
Yeah, I see the Dukes of Hazzard, Return of the General Lee. Oh yeah, isn't that the name of their car? That
makes sense.
That's weird. That's weird. It's also on the Game Boy Color because they were always. I did PlayStation. The Dukes of Hazzard 2. Daisy dukes it out. Yeah, this is very.
I did not know there was a Game Boy version. I think I need to get that.
Yeah, it is. It's Game Boy Color even, so it'll have like 16 colors. I'm just amazed. I can't believe who thought anyone like man. I don't know who they thought would. I guess it was a different time for games.
Oh yeah, truly. It was a very much anything goes. Nobody knew what made money, so they were more willing to just do whatever the hell, as long as it didn't cost too much.
Wild stuff. And man, it even looks like there may have been an Xbox version, because this one is definitely Xbox case. And of course, PS2 contemporary era, but it looks like I see way more results for the PS2 version. So I feel like that's the one that I remember
being marketed to me.
Yeah, that is definitely the definitive version. Followed by the Game Boy Color. I think that has to be a meme. That has to be because of a YouTuber, I bet. Someone made a video about that.
There might be some genuine fans. Like, there are a handful of Game Boy Color games that I personally like, not because the games that I like are particularly good. Most of them are dog shit, but I liked them when I was a kid, so I passively like them now as an adult. So there might be some weirdo out there who's like, "Oh boy, Dukes of the Hazzard for the Game Boy, hell yeah, love it."
Yeah, I know that feeling. I can't off the top of my head pull out an example, but I definitely know I have things that I'm a casual fan of solely because it existed while I was a child.
Well, the first one that comes to my mind is there was a Shrek fighting game that came out for the 32-bit consoles like Xbox and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the one that we had was the Game Boy version. I don't even think it was Game Boy Color because I don't remember it having too many colors. But it's all the characters that was in the proper game. You know, you get to fight other Shrek characters as Shrek or Donkey or Pinocchio. But it was very shitty and very easy to like stun lock the computer. So you could speed run the game in like under an hour. And that was the fun of that game for me and my siblings, just figuring out ways to cheat the game, but also beat the game faster than was probably conceived by the developers that were forced to make it. And so every few years or so, I will emulate that game and try to beat whatever I remember being my best time.
You're like a speedrunning community of one for this game.
Yeah.
You're your own speedrunning league against your past self.
Another one that I really liked was the Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets Game Boy Color game, because on the 32-bit consoles and on PC, those were like action games. But on Game Boy, they made it into an RPG. So, like, anyone who was starving for like Final Fantasy or something like that, those games never went on sale. But the Harry Potter RPG, you could get for like $1. And so that's what happened.
And it's a full-on little turn-based. Okay, yeah, this is the Final Fantasy you have at home.
And depending on your perspective, it might be more interesting than like a normal vanilla Final Fantasy on that kind of device, because the backgrounds were more detailed than what a lot of companies were doing on Game Boy. And then when the games moved to the Game Boy Advance, they did this cool behind the characters sort of view where it would like dynamically zoom in and out after you do an action.
Yeah.
So before I even got into like proper Japanese RPGs, I was Harry Potter maxing like a little weirdo.
That is interesting. I didn't realize, because I was a very casual Harry Potter fan. I did not, I only engaged with the first book, which I had to read secretly because Harry Potter was persona non grata at my school.
Oh, do they like look at the magic and go, "Oh, this is satanic"?
Yeah. But
little did they know they were kind of ahead of the curve. It's just that the books aren't satanic; the author is.
Yeah, it's kind of it's kind of weird too, because like they were fine with Lord of the Rings and Narnia, which definitely had magic, but I guess we're ostensibly made by Christians. But like J.K. Rowling is ostensibly a Christian coming out of the UK, and also now she's like a megaturf. So it makes me wonder, like, do conservatives now love Harry Potter because she's transphobic, so Harry Potter is based? So like, I wonder if maybe like you go to a Christian school now and they're like, "Oh, read Harry Potter. It's not woke."
Oh, I'd believe it. I wonder what like literature curriculum is for kids nowadays. Like, if people aren't being told to read Mark Twain, what are they being told to read?
Yeah. Yeah, I saw this thread and I haven't checked in on it since it first started and had 10 comments. But it has now
2,000 comments.
Yes, it has grown. But it is, how do conservatives enjoy Christmas movies? Are you sympathetic towards Scrooge or the ghost terrorists, or is that correct? That the correct way to convince billionaires to share their wealth? Would you be giving advice to Tiny Tim on how to better navigate capitalism? Is George Bailey just a lib who deserved to be owned by the big banks? Do you ever consider these films in the context of your political beliefs? Do they seem like anti-capitalist propaganda? Is it different that there are Muppets involved? Do you explain to the children in your life the role that wealth plays in the spirit of Christmas? If so, how? And I remember the first comments were like, I'll take this entire post as disingenuous for 800, Alex. Or like people saying, no, we don't let them be spoiled by politics. And I know this has got to make people mad. It has to. But it's so...
what you were relaying, was that the original post?
That was the original post.
Okay. I'm not logged into Reddit, so it's just telling me that the post was removed. So I can't see what OP posted, but I can see some of the comments.
Wow, it was removed. That's wild. Okay.
Damn. I guess people really got puffed up by this one. I'd rarely see a post get destroyed by a Reddit moderator when it's got this much activity going up for it. Usually a moderator will just like delete something that has less than a dozen replies.
Yeah.
Something popular you usually don't want to delete because it's a bad look. It's like the moderators are doing too much, almost like taking away opportunities for a conversation. But I guess enough conversation has taken place that it would probably be good just for like the good of the board to not have people who aren't already a part of the board showing up for this spectacle.
Yeah.
It's a good spectacle, though. I love the premise.
The Night Before Christmas is my favorite Christmas movie, so I don't know what to tell you. I think that, what does that say about a person? Your favorite Christmas movie is the one where the good guy is kind of a skeleton monster who tries to steal Christmas and ruin it? Like that?
Yeah.
That's your ideal? That's funny. That's funny to me. But it looks like here on the right, the number one rule is post must contain good faith questions. They probably deemed this not good faith, which I think is bullshit because I think I think the guy's right. Maybe the question's not in good faith, but I think he's making a correct point. If you like most classic Christmas movies and you're a conservative, you're probably full of shit. But
seeing what kinds of Christmas movies modern conservatives make, I think it's a valid question because it doesn't like match up one-to-one with the commonplace premise of what a Christmas movie is supposed to be, at least in terms of like what I've seen for the last few weeks. Because I've never been big on Christmas personally. I probably would be one of those weirdos who says The Night Before Christmas is my favorite Christmas movie. Aside from a few examples, off the beat nonsense like Unaccompanied Minors and Christmas with the Cranks.
I love Christmas with the
Lincoln
Cranks.
Bass cartoons.
That's another one of my favorites that I watch every year. I know it has gained a reputation, especially since John Tron did his video on it a few years back. But I've been watching it every year since before then. It's like my favorite. It's not good. It's like cheesy, bad Christmas movie kind of thing that I love.
I like the premise of it. Like two people just deciding to do their own thing and then like almost being mistreated as a result of it. I kind of wish the movie had stuck to that instead of the weird twist at the end where they're like, oh, we have to embrace Christmas or else our daughter won't love us.
Oh my goodness. And the wife turns on him so quick. Like he went along with it. Like with the
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, it wasn't your idea, but he got you on board. You were in on it. You were part of the shenanigans. You can't just flip around and act like you weren't part of it.
Which I guess is part of the comedy of the movie, but if it were being played straight, I would feel very bad about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Especially after they went and got tans.
Oh my goodness, the tan was so good.
I wonder what Tim Allen has been up to these days. Let's see.
Well, I know only a year or two ago he was doing a whole season of the Santa Claus.
Oh, I forgot about that. The Santa Claus as a TV show. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was okay-ish. I remember, honestly, my memory of it is not good. I remember kind of being bad, but I can't really remember the plot of it.
I guess he's working on a new series with ABC. So he's just sticking with what he knows, which I guess is going with whatever Disney will hire him for.
Yeah, he's got to go wherever they'll hire him, I guess. He's a Trumper as far as I know.
Yeah,
Sadly.
I do remember that. He came out as a conservative. As far as I know, went radio silent and then realized, oh, I can still work. I have friends in the industry.
Trumper stock, unfortunately, higher than ever right now.
Yeah, which is weird. Who's that guy I never liked? From Harold and the Purple Crayon. I need to look up his name.
Zachary Levi.
Yeah, Zachary. That guy. Weird heel turn. And then he's doing conferences on Trump's behalf. So weird.
Yeah. Very bizarre. Very, very bizarre. Hard to enjoy Chuck now. Harder to enjoy Shazam 2 now. But
True. I've never been super into Chuck. I knew people who saw Chuck, but for some reason it just didn't speak to me. Whenever I hear Chuck, I think of shoes.
It's an example of thing that I liked because it existed when I was a kid.
Oh, that makes sense.
That's pretty much it. I was a kid or a teenager and that show was coming out new. So by virtue of just existing and being a little bit better than whatever its contemporaries were, I liked it enough. But
I've definitely had shows like that.
All right. Well, do you have any last things before we wrap up here?
I do have one thing. Kind of just something that I wanted to spotlight as a creative tool. For my birthday last year, a sibling bought me a program called Moho, which is a animation software that I guess exists in the sort of space something like Toon Boom does, where it's vector-based, but also allows for some level of non-vector animation. So you kind of get to utilize them in conjunction with rigs and traditional frames and stuff. And I've been taking my sweet time learning it, but of what I've been able to extract out of it, it's very fun to use and almost intuitive. And it doesn't cost that much if anyone out there has some interest in cartooning and just wants to fiddle around with it. They have a low-cost version that's just $60, and then the quote-unquote pro version is $400, which is crazy. But I definitely recommend it. For anyone that has lamented the loss of Flash as a animation tool. A lot of us used to use Flash to make Flash cartoons, and then that just disappeared with no clear indication of what would replace it, check out Moho. I think it's very cool. And the low cost version is good enough if you are approaching it from the conceit of, oh, I used to animate in Flash. I'd like to do some more of that again.
Interesting. I've never messed around with animation beyond doing like frame by frame kind of draw it entirely. So I don't know how good these things are. But I mean, I imagine most, because like drawing frame by frame is just impractical for like most things if you're like a single person. So I imagine most stuff like on YouTube that people are animating is probably something akin to this.
Definitely some sort of hybrid technique is being utilized. Like, I feel like there are a lot of shots in Hasbin Hotel that I feel kind of switch between normal in between frames and rigged animation. It also comes up a lot in anime, I've noticed. So I guess it just depends on like whatever is easier. And someone that is very skilled in animation, like they've done a lot of it, they probably already know like what they would want to just like put on a rig as opposed to animating manually. But then like with these newer programs, there's a lot of little macros and things that will save you even more time by just doing the tweening for you. So if you have practiced enough with it, you could develop the confidence to just do like the start frame of something and then the end frame of something, and then tell the computer, okay, you do the rest for me. And that would save you like probably 10 minutes or something, depending on what it is.
Wow.
But another reason I wanted to recommend it is just like in spite of Adobe. Adobe has been doing a lot of like weird AI stuff. And so even though they have their own animation software, finally giving something for the people missing out on Flash as a animation tool. I just want to spotlight that there are alternatives available. Like a lot of people in our circle animate with Clip Studio Paint, another extremely affordable option. But I've been practicing with this just because it was handed to me.
I do appreciate no subscription, perpetual license only.
Yeah. So even if like a new version comes out with some sort of feature that's probably like a real big game changer, you aren't forced to switch if you are already doing well enough with what you have, which I love. Like manga artists using like Clip Studio from 2006. That's crazy to me, but it makes sense. Why would they ever need to update? They're already getting published and have their own workflow with what they already have. That's what we need more of. We don't need people getting locked into subscriptions for stuff they don't probably need.
Yeah, I mean, this has me intrigued. I'm interested to like maybe mess around with this a little bit. It looks.
I definitely recommend it. Like with the way that the market is going, it behooves us all to have some kind of additional skills in our tool belt to combat the proliferation of AI nonsense. And right now, even though AI sucks, it's getting better at fooling people. But AI cannot animate properly. Everything that comes out, it's just, oh, they put a filter on top of existing video. That's stupid. Everyone should learn real animation so that these AI people can continue to be embarrassed.
100%. I'm on board with naming and shaming, probably not maiming, because that's inhuman, or inhumane rather, to the AI people and the AI features.
Yeah, ostensibly they are still potential customers because at least some of them will have to buy whatever it is you're making, even if it does eventually get roped into being someone's weird AI hobbyist nonsense. Yeah, we don't want to kill them. They are just as much enjoyers of art, maybe some of them.
Yeah, they can be reached. They can be saved. We can
Yeah.
de-AIify them, you know? The same way we will have to de-Nazify and de-Trumpify people. We will de-AIify their art tastes one of these days. We will.
Or just find ways to do cool stuff in spite of them.
Yes.
Because there's also something to be said about not wasting one's life trying to milk goodwill from a stone.
True. Just make something so good they can't not buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Brings to mind a video I saw of like someone putting AI on top of animation from that Arcane show, and they just made it look worse by taking out all of the like cool shading that they put on that show to make it painterly looking.
Yo, I swear to God, people online, and this is not just an AI thing. This is just like a weirdo online thing. I swear to God, they just think different is better. Like, I made this image different. I fixed it. No, I mean, you made it different. You didn't make it better.
I mean, I'm kind of like that sometimes. Every now and then, I'll see fan art of something that someone's made, and I will think in my head, I wish that were different. I won't make it that person's problem, though. I'll usually just try to do my own. The right way, not with AI.
Yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily always wrong to do something different, but sometimes it feels like they can't tell the difference between them. They like totally take the sauce out of something, and
Oh, yeah.
they don't realize it. But because it's not like it was when they started, they confuse it for good. But sometimes I'm just a hater too, so who knows?
It might be contextual.
Yeah, it varies from event to event. But yeah, I think that wraps us up for this week. I have been and continue to be SnakeJess Straws.
And I am Julian, known as Julian My Julian.